When faith becomes comfortable. Most of us do not set out to compromise our faith. More often, we just learn how to make it easier to live with. We soften what feels sharp. We stay quiet when speaking might create tension. We adjust in small ways so that following Jesus fits more comfortably into the world around us. Not because we love him less, but because we want peace. We want to belong. We want life to move smoothly. And over time, it becomes harder to tell the difference between faithfulness and fitting in, especially when we belong to a king whose values do not always match the world around us. This tension is not new. Paul saw it unfolding in the churches of Galatia. Some believers were urging Gentile Christians to be circumcised. On the surface, it looked like devotion, faithful obedience, a way to preserve unity. But Paul saw something deeper beneath it. It is those who want to make a good showing in the flesh who would force you to be circumcised, and only in order that they may not be persecuted for the cross of Christ. Galatians 6:12. That is a striking claim. Paul does not accuse them of abandoning God. He says they were trying to avoid suffering, trying to reduce the cost of being identified with the cross. And if we are honest, that instinct is not hard for us to understand. Paul understood what it meant for faith and acceptance to move in the same direction. Before Jesus, his devotion brought clarity and respect. He knew where he belonged. He knew who approved of him. His zeal was not insincere. He believed he was protecting faithfulness. In that world, obedience and approval reinforced each other. Then he encountered Jesus. And suddenly, they did not. The things that once gave Paul confidence no longer defined him. The approval he once carried disappeared. The communities that once welcomed him grew suspicious. The message he now preached placed him at odds with both the religious world he came from and the broader culture around him. Paul did not lose comfort because he became careless. He lost it because allegiance to Jesus reordered what mattered most. Years later, he would describe that turning point simply, "But whatever gain I had, I counted as loss for the sake of Christ." Philippians 3:7. That sentence sounds clean on the page. In life, it rarely feels that way, because most of us are not asked to give up everything at once. The tension usually appears in smaller moments, moments where silence feels safer than honesty, moments where we shape our words so we remain understood, moments where faith stays present but quiet enough not to disrupt anything. Paul knew those moments too, and yet, again and again, he refused to reshape the message in order to regain acceptance. That is why he could write, "For am I now seeking the approval of man or of God, or am I trying to please man? If I were still trying to please man, I would not be a servant of Christ." Galatians 1:10. This is where pistis begins to come into focus. Faith is not merely agreement with an idea. It is allegiance, loyalty to a king. And allegiance is rarely tested when faith costs nothing. It becomes visible when comfort and loyalty begin to pull in different directions. Not in dramatic moments, but in ordinary ones. In the quiet decisions where we choose whether approval or faithfulness will define us. Most of us are not trying to walk away from Jesus. We are trying to live faithfully while also remaining comfortable. We want peace with God and peace with the world at the same time. And slowly, without noticing, we begin to measure faithfulness by how little tension our faith creates. Paul understood that pull. He felt it in his own life. That is why his words do not sound harsh. They sound settled. "But far be it from me to boast except in the cross of our Lord Jesus Christ, by which the world has been crucified to me, and I to the world." Galatians 6:14. The cross did not make Paul smaller. It made him free. Free from needing approval to define his faithfulness. Free from reshaping the message so that it would cost less. Free to belong fully to Jesus, even when that belonging was misunderstood. And this is where surrender begins to look different than we expect. Surrender is not loss, it is trust. It is the quiet decision to let Jesus define who we are, to rest our identity in him rather than in how we are received, to live openly under his reign, even when that life does not fit neatly into the expectations around us. Most of the time, this realignment is not dramatic. It happens slowly, as we notice where comfort has been guiding us more than trust. As we learn again that our security does not come from being understood by everyone around us, but from belonging to Jesus. And slowly, almost quietly, Our lives begin to say what Paul's life eventually said. Our confidence is not in fitting in, but in belonging to our King. As you sit with this teaching today, take a moment to reflect. Where might the desire to be understood or accepted be quietly shaping your faith? Where might the instinct to avoid discomfort be influencing how openly you follow Jesus? And where might he be inviting you to trust him more deeply, not by striving harder, but by resting your identity more fully under his reign? If you're willing, share your reflections or questions in the comments so we can learn and walk this journey together.